Hey guys, welcome back to the AJ Analysis channel and the Scouting for United series, where today we are looking at Amadou Onana of Everton and Belgium. Now the reason that we are talking about Onana today is because he's probably the midfielder which has been linked with the club the most over the past 5 or 6 days or so. A lot of rumours surrounding him and a potential move to Old Trafford. So I thought today we would look at some of his strengths and weaknesses as a player, figure out what his best role in the team would be, really what he would bring to the side, and then kind of evaluate whether or not it's a signing that United should pursue. So before we continue into the video, a quick shout out to today's video sponsor, JerseyFifa.com, the home of all of the greatest football kits. Whether that be the new latest releases or the old classic ones like this, Jersey FIFA has something for everyone, and now you can check it out yourself using the link in the description down below. And also make sure to use code JerseyFifa for 10% off when you order. Now today we won't be using stats and figures as much as what we perhaps typically would in these videos, simply because he was playing in quite a poor Everton side last season, so his numbers are skewed a little bit. However, there is one number I want to look at, and it is this one. This is his defensive FBref report from his last season with Lille over in France. We can see how good this is. Tackles, 93rd percentile. Tackles won, 95th percentile. Percentage of dribblers tackled, 72%, ranking him in the 99th percentile. Challenges lost, the 97th percentile. Tackles and interceptions, the 94th percentile. So we can see there, and we get an idea that this is a very good ball winner. Someone who is brilliant at breaking up the play in the centre of the park, and a lot of the reason for that is because he's a very industrious player. Not someone who's happy to kind of stroll and kind of mope his way around the pitch. Onana is all action, high work rate, puts a lot of effort into the performance, constantly running. You will always see him buzzing about the pitch, getting into different positions, making sure that he is involved in the play. One of the reasons he's able to cover so much ground is actually because of his frame and because of his size. Standing at around 6'4", 6'5", Onana is one of the biggest physical presences in the midfield. But what we see is particularly his long legs allow him to really kind of open up that stride pattern to cover a lot of ground, which makes him very good at pushing forward to support the attack, but also importantly tracking back with intensity and with speed to win the ball back for his side. Another thing which aids him in this area is again those long legs and his ability to stretch a foot out to make the tackle. So the opposition might be dribbling, carrying the ball forward here. Onana's got initially the speed to keep up with him. He's very good across the ground, but then also a brilliant tackling ability, whether that be a slide tackle or just poking out one of those long legs to win the ball back. And I do believe that we have an example of this, which we can check out using Want Video Analyzer Pro. If you want to check it out, you can. A link will be in the description down below. A really good video analysis software, which allows us here to highlight Onana tracking back on Kevin De Bruyne. Now we know that Kevin De Bruyne is a strong ball carrier, so Onana's done well to even kind of be in contact with him at this stage. But what's impressive is the way in which he's happy to go to ground and win the ball back for his side. It's a very good challenge. And we've got another one coming up here. We can see Almiron is carrying the ball on the counter-attack, but Onana, we can see again, he's opening up that stride pattern. He's really opening up the legs to track back and win the ball back for his side here. Almiron is looking to break, but Onana just isn't going to let that happen, and again puts in a really very good tackle. Now, that's pretty simple stuff, of course, that he's just putting tackles in to break up the play, but it's still impressive that he's able to do that. And it is something which would be super useful for United. I'm sure a lot of you saw that game against Wolves the other day, where far too often Wolves were able to just kind of carry the ball forward through the midfield, relatively unchallenged, pretty easily. They were kind of striding forward through the press. That was a real problem for United. Having someone like Onana would go a real long way to addressing that. Now, another reason that Onana would address some of those problems, again, is because of his physical size and his strength. Again, United were kind of brushed off the ball too easily against Wolves. There was too many situations where Wolves were winning the 50-50s. Wolves won pretty much all of the duels in that game. It was quite ridiculous, to be fair. But again, this isn't something which Onana struggles with. He's very good in the duels. And we actually saw it against Manchester United last season. Here, he is going shoulder to shoulder with Casemiro. Probably United's player, in terms of in the front six, who you would say is the most physically capable. But, you know, no match for Onana really. They're both here going to go in a big shoulder to shoulder. See you later, Casemiro. Casemiro gets put on the floor basically. So that is Onana's strength. He's really very good off the ball in this way. Very good at kind of getting his body about the pitch, getting in between players, winning the ball back for his side, which would be super useful for United, particularly when defending transitions. United struggled with it horribly against Wolves. Onana is the sort of player that would address that. So, that might kind of bring you to the conclusion that perhaps Onana is a Casemiro replacement. Perhaps he's a holding midfielder. But I'm not convinced that he is yet. Do I think he perhaps could go on to become one? Yeah, potentially later on in his career. But right now, I don't think that he has the reading to his game from a defensive point of view to really be relied upon as the deepest midfielder. Not by himself. I think he needs someone alongside him. So I think if Onana was signed, rather than replacing Casemiro, he's probably more someone you bring in for certain games to play alongside him. Now, there's probably certain games where he could play as the deepest midfielder. For example, in the Cup, if you've got a bit of an easier game, you could probably trust him in that position and kind of help him train and develop to become that. But I think in the top games in the Premier League, you'd probably want him alongside Casemiro rather than instead of him. So I think that gives us a pretty good overview on what Onana would bring to the side in terms of out of possession. He would be very, very useful to this United team. He's certainly an upgrade on the likes of Bruno Fernandes and Mason Mount, purely because of his physicality and his ability to win the ball back. But for him to make it at a club like Manchester United, under a manager like Erik ten Hag, he needs to be good on the ball. So that's what we need to look at next. And it's a pretty good start if we look at this quote here from one of his managers. We saw him as soon as he started playing, he never hides, he asks for the ball and dares. That's why I wanted to bring him into a situation of pressure, in a full stadium and a derby. He will be able to develop with our team. Now what I like there is the fact that the quote, he never hides, suggesting that he is the sort of player which is happy to drop a little bit deeper and receive the ball from his teammates. So let's say the centre-backs have got the ball here. It appears as though, and from the footage I've seen, he seems like someone who is happy to move into positions, move into space to receive the ball. Some players do literally hide at times behind a shadow press like this, making themselves unavailable for the pass. Onana isn't someone who does that, because he's always got his head on a swivel. He's very good at scanning his surroundings. Now, this is actually an area where Casemiro really struggles at times. Casemiro, quite frankly, isn't great at that. He doesn't scan at all before receiving the ball. Onana does it really well, allowing him to not only pick up space, but also then receive the ball on the turn. And his first touch, the way in which he positions his body to then move on the turn, is very, very positive. His first touch is always very good, and it allows him to kind of take the ball in these situations and get on the turn and move the ball forward. So that's a very good start. However, there is a slightly disappointing thing with his game from here. And it's more annoying because that first touch is so good. His first touch is so good, it sets himself so positively to move through the pitch. And, you know, sometimes that's going to open up a situation where you can maybe fire a pass through the lines into one of your wingers or maybe a dropping forward. But Onana doesn't really do that. His passing is very, very safe. He's not someone who wants to open up and express himself and, again, fire passes through the lines, try difficult passes moving forward. Not his game. Very, very safe on the ball. Now, there's of course positives and negatives to that. The positive is that, particularly in this United team, it allows everyone to slow the game down a little bit. Let's say when you've got Bruno Fernandes and Casemiro in here, it's very fast-paced at times. Too direct, too forward. Onana is someone who at least will move the ball sideways. So that's important for United because it allows them to keep the ball. Taking over, keep possession, move the opposition from side to side, so it is ideal. However, the fact that he genuinely almost never plays the ball forward is a bit more of a concern. You want a player who maybe doesn't always do it, but when the opportunity is on, they will do it. That isn't really Onana. He's not very good at all with his forward passing. Now, we do need to consider he's very, very young. He's only now starting his third season in senior football. So perhaps he could be coached and developed, particularly from someone like Erik ten Hag, allowing him to develop as a player, to improve his passing through the lines. Perhaps that could happen. Now, whilst he may not be progressive with his passing, that doesn't mean he isn't at all progressive in the way that he plays, because what he loves to do is carry the ball forward. Again, we're using that big stride pattern which we were talking about at the start of the video. Onana loves to drive through the pitch with the ball at his feet. Now, I wouldn't label him as a dribbler even. He doesn't particularly dribble past players. It tends to be more into open space where he really looks to drive forward with the ball. Now, in terms of the dribbling side of his game, kind of taking someone on, we saw it more with Everton last season, so perhaps he can continue to develop in that area. But like I said, what he really likes to do is pick the ball up and stride forward with it. Carry the ball through the pitch, get the ball moving forward in that way. So he may not be progressive with his passing, but he does still progress the ball for his side, so that kind of makes up for it a little bit. In terms of if we were going to try and take all of those strengths and weaknesses, if you like, into consideration and find a role for him in this team, it's a little bit tricky because, like I said, he isn't particularly progressive with the way that he plays, but he can carry the ball forward. He's a very good ball winner, safe in possession, good recovery runs. It's difficult to figure out exactly what would be the best role for him. However, what we did see quite a lot at Lille was him playing on the left side of a double pivot in midfield too. That could work, because I like the idea of Luke Shaw playing much higher than what he played against Wolves the other day. I think Luke Shaw, of course there should be rotations, but I think Luke Shaw should have more attacking freedom to his game. Particularly when Rashford is on the left hand side, allowing him to come infield with someone else playing up front. Maybe we could look at a system which in possession looks something like this. This could be a real option for Manchester United because Onana and Casemiro, in terms of defending transitions, would be very good. Very good. As long as the structure is set up right, the players are in the right positions, in terms of pure ball winning ability of these two, it would be of a really high standard. It's very, very physical. We saw Manchester City last season. They kind of moved away from their typical Pep Guardiola approach to make sure that they had more physical players to defend the transition. We saw the likes of John Stones and Rodri as their midfield. Onana and Casemiro would bring you something actually really quite similar. So this could definitely work for United. This is something which could be pursued. If he was to join the club, this is the role that I would like to see him in. Now, importantly, he does work in rotation as well. For example, at times he could be the solo pivot, letting Casemiro go forward. At times he can push it a little bit higher and rotate with Luke Shaw, seeing Luke Shaw come deeper, something like this. These rotations will always be important, and we need to see them moving forward. So Onana is someone who ticks that box as well. The problem with signing Onana, in terms of, especially as it looks like it might be quite a big fee, is suddenly there's not a spot in the team for Mason Mount. And, you know, he cost quite a lot of money. And is the Manchester United number 7, implying he's probably going to play. And also, against Wolves, he was probably the best of the United midfield 3 in possession. So it seems a bit harsh that he is the one that drops out. But I think it would have to be him. Bruno Fernandes is by far the best creator still. Casemiro is the holding midfielder. So perhaps we could see some sort of a role in terms of in the squad, where Mason Mount is playing certain games, Onana is playing other ones depending on the opposition. When Erik ten Hag wants a bit more physicality to his side, you bring Onana in. However, when he's expecting a bit more control of possession, maybe Mason Mount plays. We could see something like that. In terms of overall, you know, coming to a conclusion, you can probably see I'm trying to kind of think of my conclusion as we're talking. I'm trying to stall a little bit. Do I think Manchester United should sign Amadou Onana? I'm genuinely not too sure. I think if you could do it quite cheap, then it's a good deal. He is a very good player, really good young player. He's one of those players where his numbers never look particularly great, but if you watch him play, you know, the eye test, he is a very good footballer. There's a lot of potential here. A real good kind of foundation to work with as well, because physically you've got everything you could ever want in a midfielder, because he's absolutely massive. He's incredibly hardworking. He's actually pretty quick. He's very athletic, technically very secure on the ball. He can carry the ball forward. He's quite safe with his passing. There's a foundation there to really build something. But is it what United need right now? Genuinely, I'm not too sure. It's probably something I need to look into a little bit more if we see kind of more concrete evidence of a transfer. But maybe you guys can help me out. Let me know in the comments down below. What do you think of Onana? Is he a signing that United should be making? And if he is, what does it mean for Mason Mount? What does it mean for Bruno Fernandes? What does it mean for Casemiro? Do we see one of those 3 completely drop out of the team? Do we see one of those more creative ones moving out wide? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. But apart from that, thank you guys for watching. I hope you have enjoyed it. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.